How long should you wait to apply for your marriage adjustment of status after officially getting married? In this video, I will share with you two very common misconceptions that keep circulating around the internet and even amongst attorneys on whether you should wait for a specific period of time after getting married or if you could apply for a green card right away. And make sure to watch to the end because I will be sharing some very interesting specific examples as well. If you're new to our channel, I'm Margarita. And although myself and my husband are immigration attorneys, we also had a personal experience with immigration, so we know firsthand how challenging it is to find the right solution that will guide you through your own marriage adjustment process. And that is obviously why you're here. On this channel, we share new videos weekly with practical tips and tricks on how to handle your own marriage green card when applying from inside the United States. Okay, so two misconceptions. I will demonstrate them to you in screenshots so you can better understand why I made this video and why it is so important for you to watch it. First is the series of comments I received under one of my latest videos. Let me walk you through this conversation real quick. So here's what they're saying.
I'd rather wait 3 years and then apply, otherwise it might take years and years to receive a permanent green card.
It is a very interesting comment and I get this so often, so I engaged with them trying to understand where this information was coming from, and here's what I got in response. Opting for immediate legalization may address the need for prompt legal status, but waiting for 3 years and gathering substantial evidence seems to be a better strategy for long-term success, in my honest opinion. This approach minimizes the risk of dealing with the I-755 process and getting stuck down the road. So basically, this person has this idea that you should wait for an extended period of time before you apply for a green card to avoid the removal of conditions portions of the process and to gather more evidence. But the second screenshot I will show you is even more concerning. I spoke with this couple a few months back regarding them joining our marriage immigration method. Just like every normal and diligent couple, they decided to double check with an attorney to make sure they're good to apply as soon as they get married. And here's an email I received from them.
So we spoke with an attorney that was referred by a friend. Basically, we told him our situation and the two options. He was a little concerned because we mentioned applying for the green card as soon as we get married. He said that it is risky and there is a chance that it could be denied. Our question is, in your experience, have you ever had anyone denied because they applied as soon as they got married?
So this attorney is ultimately telling them that if they apply right after getting married, their application can apparently get denied. Obviously, this information, or rather misinformation, is making them more confused on how they should proceed. Since this is such a common issue, we need to go deep on both of these points. So to address the first concern, should you wait 2 or even 3 years after getting married to apply for a marriage adjustment? For some of you, this might be completely new information, but just to clarify, when your green card is approved before your second wedding anniversary, you get a conditional green card valid for only 2 years, and before it expires, you have to apply for removal of conditions, or in other words, apply for a permanent 10-year green card. You cannot avoid it, and it must be done. Just to give you an idea, if you don't do that, you will be referred to immigration court. However, if your green card is approved after your second wedding anniversary, you get a permanent 10-year green card right away. You effectively avoid having to go through the removal of conditions, and then your final step in the process is naturalization, when you become a U.S. citizen, get your U.S. passport, and you're done with immigration altogether. So the question is it worth it to wait for, let's say, 2 years or maybe slightly more or less, and then apply for a green card so you can avoid the removal of conditions process? Truthfully, it is a valid question since currently and generally it takes the USCIS less than 2 years to process these marriage AOS cases, so chances are you will get a conditional 2-year green card if you apply right after getting married. The answer to that question, however, is a huge no, and here's why. First, if you're waiting in the US, it means that you need to somehow maintain your immigration status, which can be complicated, or expensive, or completely impossible. If you're married to a US citizen, your visa overstay will be forgiven and you will still be able to get your green card, but you will be out of status for a long period of time, which is scary and not something I personally would risk. You will be afraid of going to the store, driving a car, definitely flying inside the US, etc. Second, you're missing out on becoming a US resident and counting that time towards your naturalization. The person in that comment suggested waiting 3 years, but close to that time, you will be eligible for naturalization if everything properly aligns and you apply right after getting married. Third, it currently takes way under a year on average to get your green card, which will allow you to work and travel, and by all means you have all the same rights as a 10-year green card holder, so you can submit immigration petitions for certain family members as well. Speaking of which, you cannot apply for your parents while you're a green card holder. You do need to become a citizen first. If you're wasting time waiting, trying to avoid the removal of conditions, you're obviously extending your entire immigration process by a long time. Another thing is that the removal of conditions is really not that bad. So long as you're in a real relationship and you're still married, you will just need to present a ton of bona fide marriage evidence again, and you will need to pay the filing fees, of course, and even attorney fees if you work with an attorney, but otherwise, you will still get your 10-year green card, no problem. That is precisely why inside our marriage immigration method, we offer all 3 steps of this journey. So you go through our entire process from the start all the way until you naturalize without having to pay again for each process. And it's also really nice to have everything in just one place. And that is how we streamline the entire experience as well. So you don't waste any time and you're not making all these mistakes that can easily waste a few years of your life. If you don't feel like hiring a lawyer, this is a perfect option for you because guess what? You are your best advocate. You just need the knowledge on how to effectively handle this process for yourself. Granted, I will say that the removal of conditions can take a long time, sometimes a few years, but that doesn't matter because you will still apply for a naturalization within 3 years of getting your conditional or 2-year green card, and both of your removal of conditions and naturalization will be processed at the same time. So certainly do not waste your time trying to avoid the removal of conditions process. To be entirely honest, it's always a huge red flag for me when couples mention potentially skipping the removal of conditions. Obviously, it's yet another opportunity for the USCIS to assess the validity of your marriage. So long as you have a real marriage and you are still married by the time you need to remove conditions on your green card, you have absolutely nothing to worry about. Although I agree that it is best to minimize your interactions with the USCIS, it still makes strategic sense to go through the removal of conditions. Okay, so now let's talk about a second comment that came from an attorney regarding the possibility of denial if this couple applies right after getting married. This is such a common misinformation, it just hurts that this specific one is coming from an immigration attorney. First, there is no USCIS rule that says,
hey, you have to wait for this specific period of time after getting married and before you can apply for your green card.
It simply does not exist. Moreover, 99% of couples inside our program join our method a month or 2 before they're married. They start working on their application and prepare it properly, and then they apply the next day or the next week. They just add a few copies of their marriage certificate to their entire file and they're good to go. And they get approved for their green cards left and right without any issues. The couple in the email asked if we've seen some cases denied because of applying right away, and in full transparency, we had 0 such cases. Just to give you an example, we had a couple and they had a very cool story on how they met and how everything unfolded, but the thing is that they knew each other for only 4 months. That was the length of their relationship. They got married, filed their case, and were approved 2 months later with a waived interview. Totally 100% legitimate relationship, and that's what matters. The USCIS is obviously not just looking at the date of your marriage, they're looking at your entire relationship. The couple from my email who was advised not to apply right away was in a relationship for many years, so that is such an erroneous thing to tell them. They have plenty of proof of their genuine relationship, so if they wait any time, they're simply wasting their own precious time. Another reason why it doesn't make any sense to wait is because, again, the USCIS will be able to assess your marriage during the removal of conditions portions of this process as well. Things can obviously take a while when it comes to immigration, and things also change and often become worse when we have a new president in the office. So when you have an opportunity to get through this process as quickly as possible, you might as well take it. Again, just to answer the overall question, you can apply for a marriage adjustment of status as soon as you get married. Immediately, the next day. That's why you shouldn't wait to look into this process and start preparing everything before you get married. That is a very common mistake I see couples make. Whether it is because they're avoiding thinking about it since it's stressful or whatever justification they might have, it's always best to start preparing your application about a month or 2 before the official wedding date, since it does take time to collect everything you need. It's a lot of different forms and a lot of supporting evidence. Your application will be at least 300 to 400 pages thick, and of course, putting this together takes a little bit of time. I'm specifically saying this because we enroll couples into our method all the time who connect on a call and tell us that they've now been married for 5-6 months plus, but still haven't prepared anything. We always ask them why they haven't applied right away, and they often tell us that they weren't able to find the right help, or they thought they needed to wait for some time after getting married. They spoke with this attorney and didn't have a good feeling about it, or the attorney told them they need to wait, or they sometimes try to go through a company like Boundless or Citizen Path. first, but they just waste their time going back and forth and nothing gets done because those companies have such strict parameters on who they can help. Just to give you a real life example, I just enrolled this couple who was going back and forth with Simple Citizen for 2 or 3 months, and ultimately it didn't work out because they didn't have an official lease agreement together, which is absolutely absurd. Through our method, they prepared their entire application in about 3 weeks. Either way, start early so you're done with this whole process early as well. I really hope you found this video helpful, which I'm sure you've learned something. Give us a like and we will see you next week.